Good morning, everybody. This is a special Thanksgiving Broadman Word. I'm Pastor Rick, Broadman Baptist Church, and welcome. I hope you're having a wonderful gathering together with family or you have had one today. And I hope that it's all that you wanted it to be, reconnections and thankfulness and worshiping and everything that a family gathering is supposed to be. I want to talk to you today related to us being together more closely with people that maybe we don't see all that often, and talk to you about do not judge. We all have a picture of how things should be said or done or how things should be. And then when people don't do what we think should be done or say things that we don't think should be said or have attitudes that we don't believe are appropriate, it is actually completely natural for us to have some critical thoughts, to rebuff the individual based on what we've perceived that doesn't line up with how we think things should be. In essence, we judge. When we get judgmental when we get judgmental thoughts that turn into judgmental words that come out usually in frustration, or even if calmly said without a lot of forethought, they often start with what's called a personal pronoun. Now, you might not know what that is, but you are going to recognize it when I say it. You, that's a personal pronoun. Nothing good happens when in a situation with two people, somebody starts the sentence out with you. When you start with you, you're putting the situation on the other person, and then you is usually followed up with like you never, or perhaps you always, or only if you would. So these things don't usually lead to constructive or positive communication. Criticism happens when we look for reasons to think more highly of our particular position or our particular thoughts and reasoning than somebody else's. However, in Matthew 7:3-5, Jesus kind of levels the playing field on this and tells us exactly how he feels about these kinds of situations. He said that we look for a speck in somebody else's eye and ignore the log in our own. Also, the Apostle Paul, writing to us in Romans 2:17-24, he says that in condemning others, we are actually condemning ourselves. Think about that. This rather innocent, rather normal, rather maybe even random conflict or encounter, maybe it doesn't start with a conflict, an encounter, turns into you condemning yourself simply because of the natural tendency of ours to criticize others when they don't reach or meet our expectations. So a goal for us to have as we move on through our walk, and we tend to want to be more spiritually mature, is to move from what's called judging, that we've just been talking about, to perceiving. If you can reach someone, if you want to reach someone, simply listen to what they have to say and try to understand what they're saying rather than issuing a judgment or even quietly thinking one. That's a matter of the heart. Just because you don't say it doesn't mean it wasn't in your heart. And if you can do that, you can be a better friend, a better mentor. You can actually come alongside somebody and possibly share some insight that would be received rather than previously when you entered the conversation with a you statement. We are condemning ourselves when we don't listen to others. You can't minister to somebody if you judge them. So, are you more apt to judge someone and open your mouth about it? That's a question for you. You have to answer. Or are you going to have the discipline of yourself instead of judging to perceive others? perceive them with love. Try to understand what they're saying. Try to understand them better. And then here's the big step. Love them regardless of what they say or do. You are going to have critical thoughts. You can't turn off the thought machine as much as we wish we could. There's no doubt about that. It's part of our fleshly existence. But the Holy Spirit gives us a unique ability to exercise self-control, to perceive somebody without judging them, and most of all, to keep your mouth shut and your mind open. Because if you keep your mind open, then your mouth shouldn't want to also be open at the same time. And those two things most definitely go together. They can work for good, or they can work for danger and destruction. So maturity then, achieving the level of spiritual maturity necessary for us to not judge, is a matter of saying what is good, not necessarily what you think, and definitely maturity is not saying everything that you think. So the question then is, will you move from judging to perceiving and grow in your spiritual maturity? Or are you going to stay stuck right there trying to be right? During this time of year when we're around a lot of folks we don't necessarily see all that often, there's going to be a lot of opinions expressed. A lot of things that aren't going to be right. You know them to not be right. And so then what do? This is where we talk about the application of the Holy Spirit and the spiritual maturity that goes along with that. And perhaps listen, try to understand, and then issue some words that might get the individual back to where they should be. Listen, I love you. I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you next time. Happy Thanksgiving.